open the committee of the board for Winona County on February 25th. 2.1, discuss regional emergency communications board. And I guess there's probably not much, Maureen, Ms. Holte, you said you did, through another meeting, the sheriff indicated he had no extra capacity or
That's correct.
okay,
Yep.
all right. Well, we'll just, I guess I haven't heard from the committee. They were polling all the counties that are part of the emergency communications group. And we'll just see where it comes up. It may be a point where we will hire an independent person to do some of that stuff, or we'll see, I guess. I don't know. Anybody else have any other? I mean, it has great value. The Joint Powers Board is critical. We do share, just so people know, we do share a lot of things like voice logging, and that's a whole different world too. But voice logging, we do a bunch of things as joint counties so that the cost is spread out over, multiple counties versus just a single one on it. So there is great value to be belonging to it. But I guess the sheriff or Ben Klinger, emergency management would be the ones. And we'll see where we can take it.
Is that what you're telling me?
Pardon me? Pardon me?
Realize I still have my hat on.
Oh, okay.
I never wear it.
Never wear hats, right? Okay, 2.2, discuss warming center.
I'll start off if that's okay.
Okay,
This stems from, it was a real short discussion 2 county board meetings ago, following up on a comment that the former coordinator for the Warming Center, Marissa Swenson Ruiz, made about the current Warming Center is going to be asked to move, et cetera. I've had some follow-up conversations with her and Marissa, and then also added to the discussion Emily and Gwen, or Emily added Gwen, or someone added Gwen. So, and then there came a point when I suggested, could we maybe have a small group discussion and just talk together instead of having the emails go back and forth? Maureen raised the point is that county, especially single county board commissioners cannot direct staff to do something. Totally understand that. And my point was, it wasn't necessarily a direct, and it was just a discussion, and then we'll see what goes there. But a very good point that commissioners shouldn't ask or direct. So Maureen suggested bring it back to the county board to discuss a one-time small group discussion that might lead to some more afterwards. That it would be a discussion with, for example, myself, Jen Ellison, who's the current coordinator for the Warming Center. If Emily felt like attending, we put that totally up to her, and Gwen's already very interested. Gwen is very interested, and there are other grants that she's been looking at. So is it okay to have a meeting, one meeting? Now, the downside to it is depending upon how the conversation goes, there might be an ask of the county because there was nothing budgeted in the county budget for this to assist in any kind of work with the Warming Center. The Warming Center, I won't be blunt, over the years, I was always somewhat surprised how little the county did. And in defense of the county, I guess it was primarily run as a volunteer organization, and through the help of, but Catholic Charities mostly administer, it doesn't really help much, but they administer, they help, I should say, they help a lot in terms of the staffing, but there's not like large pots of money that was being funneled in. It was basically local fundraising, et cetera. So I wanted to see where things are at and what their needs are. This winter we're okay, but going into next season, and to see if maybe there's a role for the county to become possibly more involved. But right now, nothing's on the table in terms of more staff or more staff time. Is that a fair summary, Maureen?
Yes, yes.
So
so who were these other 2 ladies you talked about? I don't know.
Jen
those
Ellison is Emily, correct me if I'm wrong, she is the current coordinator for the Warming Center. And then Gwen, it's not Herbert, it's Aber, right?
He says it Herbert.
I'm sorry, Herbert is the RAP executive, I'm sorry.
Executive assistant,
Executive director.
director, sorry, yes,
For CJCC.
You're right.
Person for whom we get all the meeting invites.
rep plus.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are contributing. If she's a county contract, right?
But it's currently not in her.
She doesn't work on it right now.
No.
Oh,
The
okay.
warming center, no,
Okay, she's just interested, you said.
Yes.
Yes.
Could you just clarify, where is it currently located? It's the old
Well, in the-
Rascals?
The former, that's the day center.
The day center, okay, so the
Still
old
in
Spurgeons?
The community Bible church basement,
Okay.
et cetera.
Yep,
It-
okay.
It was formerly community Bible church.
Okay,
Now
I
it's-
just,
yeah.
I was
On
mixing
Third
the
Street,
two up,
kind
all
of
right.
kitty corner across from, next to Yarnology and.
Yep, I know where.
Down the street in the basement of that church. And the church is asking them to move, which is too bad because a lot of money, a lot of COVID money especially was plowed into that space, but so they're looking at where things are at and not asking anything of the county now. It might turn into an ask later on, but right now it's just, and I and one or two county folks meet with Jen Ellison, who's the current coordinator, and she said that she would invite in the executive director of Catholic Charities, John Myers from Rochester, to the discussion. Emily, is that a fair summary? Maureen?
Yeah.
Is the county board okay? And of course, the staff doesn't need to attend. That's a question for the staff to determine in terms of their current workload and bandwidth, et cetera. Just
How long does this warming center operate?
November 1st through March 31st.
Okay, so they got another month.
Yep, yep.
And it's what, 10 PM to,
You can,
9
guests
PM?
can arrive between 9 and 10, and then they're open, and then they leave at 7 in the morning. Was, used to be 7 in the morning.
And what, I apologize, I have no idea. What's their demand? How many people?
Anywhere from 6 to, well, it used to be 6 to 12 to 14 people a night.
Okay.
But they have those numbers in terms of like distinct individuals. Law enforcement is very excited to have this in town because it means less people in jails and more people being served. Taking care of that in ways.
so, I mean, if I, remind me, we put COVID money in there. Didn't they do showers and, yeah, and now that's just, thank you, but
So who owns
It's the church. It's a.
the church owns the
Yeah,
building?
the church owns the building.
Oh, that's highly, Maybe they-
I was surprised too, but that's a discussion between church.
it's a non-denominational group of church, of the church, okay. All right. Well, be careful what you get us into.
Right, well, nothing could be committed, nothing will be committed unless it comes back to the board for future discussion.
Yeah, and in terms of grants, right? This was before I got elected, the year before I got elected, that there's some kind of a form, like you can't just apply for grants. You
Right.
have to get approval from the county board first, right?
Yes, we have a policy, a grant policy.
Yeah.
So if we're going to apply for a grant, it needs to come through the board for approval to apply for a grant.
Because there are potential grants that allow counties, for example, Olmsted County is more actively involved with serving, I'll just use the old fashioned language, homeless persons. And then they also have more involvement in terms of transitional housing. They also have access to more state and federal funds, but that
They have
requires.
more of everything. Olmsted
And they
County.
also have a lot more, yes, the numbers there are much higher.
Yeah.
And that is, so this would not ask any staff to do anything unless, because I think the reason for the policy before I came was to make sure that you apply for a grant and then that then implies more additional staff time. For
Correct.
people who don't have more bandwidth for more staff time. So right now, it is a one-time meeting, see where things are at, see if there's a role for the county, then we'll go from there.
Well, they just greatly reduced that whole big dormitory over on campus. Maybe you could buy that. I mean, that dropped significantly.
Well, that's,
I mean, people have mentioned that. I mean, out
Oh,
and
yes,
about,
absolutely.
want somebody buy that and use it.
But if another commission, if the board's okay with the small group discussion happening, if another commissioner wants to attend, you're very well, as long as it's just two of us.
my take on it is this, anytime government steps in, I think the trend is private philanthropy drops. And that's where I would get scared. And quite honestly, I wasn't even aware that there was a warming center. A lot of people aren't aware. Now, you go ask somebody that Jessica that's struggling to make her rent right now, living above the post office in St. Charles, is saying, well, I want to contribute to something and I can barely stay where I'm at. I think the best thing that we can do is keep it in the public sector, because as soon as it moves into, the private sector, as soon as it moves into a government sector, it generally gets looked at as it's funded by the government. Now I'm done, right? I mean, I use the Road and Bridge Committee. Nobody's walking in writing checks out going, here, put that towards my bridge. So I would heavily encourage, if the county does get in, that it isn't on a basis of, hey, we're going to help fund something. It is could be potentially to make somebody aware that there's a situation. That's where I would like to, if we were to do something.
That could be a partnership, private-public partnership as well.
Okay, anything else right now?
Is the board okay with that conversation taking place?
Again, be careful what,
Well, nothing,
Where you
nothing,
take us.
nothing will be,
yeah,
Nothing
I
will be
know, I
decided.
know, but with you at the table, it kind of lends itself towards, hey, the county's here. I mean, seriously,
Oh, it
the
does.
county's here, they got,
and I'll fully own it. I'm passionate about this issue.
I know,
I'll
yeah.
fight like hell for this. There's a lot no one sees, to your point. People don't see those persons
And-
unless you work with them and volunteer and sit with them.
I've dropped a person off there a couple times, so I do know.
Yep. So,
And,
yes.
and I think it's noble, but I just would heavily suggest that we keep it in the private sector because it'll just become another group that phase out and it'll become dependent on the taxpayer to fund it. And again, I look at the person in Elba saying, well, what good does a warming center do me? I look at the person in Utica. We have homeless people in St. Charles. What good does it do the rest of the constituents outside of Winona? It is a Winona thing. To me, I think Winona City should be heavily looking at this in conjunction with Homer and Goodhue or Goodview, excuse me, and things like that. And so city, because really it's serving their constituents. So that's why I'm saying what I'm
Yep.
saying, because it doesn't
Yep.
make any sense
And maybe
for
you wanna
anybody in my district, and a little bit Minnesota district.
expand your base to maybe somebody from the police department.
Yep.
That could be a liaison for the
The
city.
board's okay. Is that your?
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll, if anything involves more staff time or grants, it'll have to come back to the board.
Correct.
all right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else that people need to discuss? All right. Okay, I guess we're done until 6.
So I hope you can see my point. It doesn't really serve any of my constituents. We're gonna load up bring them down, I really think heavily that Winona is really a Winona situation.
Unfortunately, when it comes to health and human services, that falls under the umbrella of counties. And that's how it's run.
I don't,
Most
yeah,
counties.
and I get that.
And to your point, I wasn't involved in the first year. I came involved in the second and third year. And it was all volunteer led. I mean, they had meetings of 60, 70 people that were there and it was almost, they had a halftime coordinator. And then over time it grew. And when the COVID money came, then they hired more staff. More staff meant less volunteers. And I fought against that. I was on the steering committee. Why break but then there's also advantages to having staff.
Right.
More consistency, But I was one of, these people, and almost all of us, thought it was working well. So why should we move towards? And the concern also was one day the money will dry up. And then when you do.
Kind of very similar to what we talked
We'll
about
have to
here.
enhance the public transportation system so people from out of the county can come in.
Then the rail system
There
up
would
in the
have to
city.
be one first.
See the rail system, Star Tribune, the deal, they're talking about shutting down the North Star Rail because it's losing money left and right and
Yeah.
there's nobody using it. And
Yeah.
the subsidy is like $100 and some a person.
Oh, yeah, it's
It's
big
just
time.
crazy.
Well, they
Yeah,